Welcome to Lou Palumbo's Between the Lines. Problem solving for our future. Lou. Common sense, logic, and reasoning. Lou. The man that can't stand hate and animus. Lou. Stimulating the thought process of America. Lou. Where being right is not political, it's factual. Lou. Providing real solutions in real time. And now, here's your host, Lou Palumbo.
Hi, my name is Lou Palumbo. I'm your host. This is Between the Lines. I recommend that you follow us on BetweenTheLines.tv, become part of this conversation. We are immersed in issues that are haunting us today, both domestic and foreign. I remind you, the issue here in my world is children. Not that I don't care about you big people, I do, but not as much as I care about our children. They're entitled to have a future. We're going to take on all the heavy lifts in our discussions, reminding everyone it's not an exercise in contention, diplomacy, people skills. We need to change the conversation, introduce civility, and some decency as well as respect. I do want to remind everyone to please follow Phantom Rescue. This is an organization that has been dedicated to, I would say, interceding in issues that involve sex trafficking. Frank Smith is its director. Tony Sparks has been there since its inception, and I believe is one of the company's architects. Please follow them. That's Phantom Rescue. And I do want to just mention, equally as important in many ways, our sponsors, Buzzsprout and Instacart. We're going to tell you a little bit more about them later. They're very user-friendly, and we also have set aside some offers for you. With that being said, let's get into our conversation with our first caller. Hello, Brenda.
Hi, Lou. How are you?
I'm very well. I gather you're in Santa Monica, California?
Yes. How'd you know? Oh, my
little
phone number.
birdie whispered in my ear. Plus, you have that 310 area code, which is indigenous to the Los Angeles area. Where are you? Are you from California originally?
Yeah, for the most part. Lived, here and there in other places.
Where were you born?
I was born in California.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Interesting. And so you apparently left at one point, is that correct?
Yeah, I've left a couple times, here, there, everywhere.
I won't delve too deeply into your personal business, although being an investigator by trade, I have a tendency to be nosy. I like learning about people. It tells us a lot about each other,
Yeah, definitely.
So may I inquire as to what you do in California?
Just job to job, just kind of, making my way through. I did a little bit of investigative work myself at one point, and then I kind of changed it up and,
Who'd you work for?
Just living.
Who'd you work for?
I did some private investigating and, stuff like that. I had some friends that ran a surveillance company and, finding cheating husbands, taking photographs.
Oh, domestic things, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always had a tendency, I'm a licensed private investigator myself, and I've worked in California since 1989. And, I've always kind of stayed away from the domestic issues because they can get really sordid. And
it can get very, very scary.
Yeah,
sometimes.
well, it's unfortunate because oftentimes children are the collateral damage of the misdeeds of the big people. If you don't have children, it's a dissolution of property and you go on your way. California,
you can move on, you can restart, and California is a no-fault state. You just get your divorce and you're good.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of states going in that direction. They're tired of the melodrama. Plus, it's Palumbo state, courtesy of Lee Marvin. He was the test case. You have a question? I can help you with something today, Brenda?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to find out. It seems like the world's changing so much today, and America is kind of going through this also big change, and so is Europe too, right, with everything that's happening in the Ukraine and Russia and all these places, and now that I have a lot more time to stay home and, I do my Bible study, and I'm starting to listen to some Christian podcasts, and they're talking a lot about, these great resets and, the end of time stuff. And I kind of was wondering your thoughts on that.
Well, I have to concur. The country is changing and the world is changing. And I live by something that people should start to adopt. It's called keeping it simple, stupid. The anachronism is KISS.
Yes.
For whatever reason, things have become very complicated and on many levels very convoluted, which is why you see the country have relationships with people or countries like Saudi Arabia, for example, which optically would not be our friend. But it's a really interesting relationship. During the Iraqi conflict, although they were never part of the coalition, as none of the Middle Eastern states, Western world took on the coalition. It's another discussion. It's tangential in nature. They did allow us to use their air bases. Additionally, you probably find this interesting, Saudi Arabia is collaborating with Israel on a desalination plant. So the world is changing. I think what you're referencing to lends itself more to deterioration, and unfortunately, I have to support that observation. There's something wrong in our country. We need two healthy political entities, and to be very honest with you and to be fair, neither one of them are healthy. It's just become an issue of lesser of the evils, Brenda, right? I'm not going to mention names, but if you look at all your major cities where the crime is just simply out of control, this is from coast to coast, north to south, we have one political entity running these environments. If you look at the borders, the day after the most recent president was sworn in, he stopped building the wall, and it became a free-for-all. And when
so we're letting all these people in. So my question is when we let all these people in, it's going to change the dynamics of America. I mean, we were created based on God, like our founding fathers based America on the Bible, right? Because they escaped religious persecution from England. I mean, my history, you're a lot smarter than I am.
No, don't assume that. Please don't do that. Don't underscore yourself. Go ahead.
What I'm seeing, though, is I feel that it seems like we're taking out the Christian values in America and we're becoming weaker. We're letting, Russia is now, getting involved with China. And now you're going to have these two people become one and possibly become a superpower.
No, where does that put happen.
America?
Brenda, I want to reassure you of something, and I've spent a lifetime analyzing people, analyzing groups, analyzing countries, and you have to know everything and everyone is agenda-driven. I think what's going on, for whatever peace this may bring you, China has made their own assessment of this blunder that Putin is attempting to perpetrate, and they realize maybe this wasn't such a good idea. They have looked at the way he has galvanized the world against him, and they're probably going, do we want to take that on? The discussion as far as China goes lends itself to Taiwan most specifically. You cannot say Russia and China in the same breath. They are two completely different countries. One is pushing forward and thriving, and Russia is almost like a dead world. Their poor people suffer at the tyranny of this man who's been running the country for 20 years. I want to go back to your comment about Christian values. I went to 16 years of Catholic school, grammar school, high school, and college. I graduated at a university in the city of New York. I went to school 16 years in the city of New York, ironically. I went to St. John's University. Don't get the wrong impression. I wasn't Sam the student. I liked playing sports, to be very honest with you. Distracted so much by them that it actually harmed my educational endeavors. Despite that, I survived myself. As far as where Christianity plays into this, I don't think you have to be a Christian to be decent. I don't think you have to be a Christian to be fair. I don't think you have to be a Christian to be kind and gentle and patient and persevering. All of the qualities we need to instill in our children to make them better big people, which will allow them to navigate the world more efficiently. Your concerns are valid. Although, as I admitted to you, I wasn't exactly killing myself to learn. I'm one of these people, I just can't help but learn, because when I'm around things, somehow I just absorb it. I don't know what's wrong with me. Maybe there's a defect. But I've listened to biblical references to the end of time. Maybe we're living it. We're going to know, but I say this to you, relax. This is a short journey. Unfortunately, for many of us, we haven't come to terms with the fact it isn't a dress rehearsal. We've avoided KISS, as I had described to you earlier.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
we got to break it down again. As far as the country goes, it's been my intention with this show not to insult, degrade, demean, or ridicule anyone. I just don't believe that bears fruit. Constructive criticism is important, but along with this criticism has to come the solution mechanism, which is lacking in the country. We're all out here rhetorically hacking each other to death. You want to talk about fixing the problems, you have the right guy on the phone, because that's all I've done my entire adult life, and probably before that. We have issues at our borders. We can lie about it and say they're not critical, but they are. If the numbers are even remotely accurate, which is upwards to 2 million people having to indiscriminately access this country, that's alarming. In reference to our cities, which I spoke about before, you just have to look at them. Interestingly enough, a friend of mine is a recently retired chief of detectives for the New York City Police Department. That is the crown jewel, being the chief of detectives. He checks the crime stats every Tuesday. The subway crime was up 184% 1 week to the next. I don't know what to tell everyone. There has to be boundaries and there have to be consequences. I don't know your political affiliation, Brenda. It's not that I don't care. I do care. But I say this to you. I don't know if you have children or their nieces or nephews in the mix in your family, but you have to love them more than you love your agenda and your political affiliation, because what we're doing today is tampering with the future, the safety, the security, and the freedom of our children in the future. We're making tons of mistakes. It almost appears as if we get up in the morning going, let's see what we can screw up today, and then we make sure we do it. I don't know what to tell you in many regards. I think we need to break it down. I think we need to simplify it. I think people in this country have to make a choice. I have voted Democratic in the past, period. I won't get into the specifics, but I protected one of the children of a presidential candidate. They took on a particular vice presidential candidate who was not fit to be the vice president, caused me to vote for a Democrat. So I'm not a blockhead about this. I vote for people I think that are the best. I am gravely concerned about this administration. In reference to the president, we listened to many people attack his cognitive skills. I want to remind everyone, the entity that came out of the gate with that was the Democratic Party during the primaries. I simply tell you, go back and look at the primaries with Julian Castro and how he went after Joe Biden at the time, saying to him, if you forgot already, 5 minutes, you forgot already. That was the anthem, and propping up Joe Biden to be the presidential candidate in the Democratic Party. They chose the most likable person, not the most competent. I'm sorry to be critical of Joe Biden, but he's not a dynamic thinker, leader, or speaker. Never has been, never will be. It's just not his cloth. That doesn't mean he can't be an effective political entity. You have to be on the right side of the argument. Right now, he's not on the right side of the argument. He's between a rock and a hard place, because I'm sure you're witnessing what's going on in the Democratic Party with a very young progressive movement that don't believe you should have police and don't believe you should have borders. This is their position. They've come out and said there should be no borders. We should just let people enter this country. We are not vetting people coming into this country, by the way, Brenda, which should alarm you. You're sitting in California, right up the block from one of the 4 bordering states. You're one of the bordering states to Mexico. There's no explanation for this. Go ahead, Brenda. Say something.
I've seen the demise of California with the crime, and it seems like things that were once not okay now seem okay. And that's what I mean by I'm starting to read the Bible a little bit more, look into these podcasts and listening to them. And I don't want to sound like a crazy conspiracy theorist, which is what I feel like I'm almost starting to become. But I'm just seeing America is not in the Bible, like only the Eastern countries are. And I'm just wondering, in America, is it all of a sudden, are we, if you can go into a CVS and steal everything, which you were never allowed to do, and just walk out, and there's no
consequence.
No one stops you. Yeah, there's no consequence. Yeah. What is going to happen? Are we going to start just allowing people just to murder people and it's fine?
Well, tragically, what we're doing in some of the major cities is that we are underscoring or underplaying criminal acts. It's happening in New York with a DA by the name of Briggs. It's happening everywhere, Gascon and Los Angeles. There seems to be this inability to discern between where you're allowed to go and where you're not. But this is what I want to say to you, Brenda. There's one political party that's attached to this. Figure out who that is. And when the election cycle comes up next November, please make sure you vote for that entity that first and foremost is going to be concerned about the future and the freedom and the safety of your children, be they yours or others. And kind of go from there. Brenda, can I take a quick break and then I can come back to you, because I do want to hear, some further comments by you, because you're on to something very, very important that many Americans need to be on. We'll be right back, guys. Instacart, another interesting concept. You can go to your favorite grocery stores, sign on to their application without leaving your home, the comfort of your home. Just pick out the items you'd like. They'll assign a personal shopper for you and deliver them to the point that you would like them delivered to. Another great concept, very user-friendly, and I'll be honest, we use it also. It's very effective, and they're very, very good. They're very on point. We're back, ladies and gentlemen. I have a lovely young lady on the phone, Brenda, from California, and she's brought to light some very interesting concerns that I have a feeling a lot of people in this country and maybe even globally share. Brenda had mentioned, are we looking at the end of time? What's happened to our country, that there are no more boundaries and consequences, especially in our major cities? And I think she's seeking some answers that I'm hoping I can provide to her. I want to give you an opportunity, Brenda, to pose another question, because I do have more to say to you on this topic, but I want to give you this opportunity first.
I'm just like, look, like I said, like I'm doing these, I'm listening to these podcasts, and like, I'm starting to feel like I'm a little bit crazy, but they start talking about, the end of times, and you're right. Like, we can't worry about it. Like, for me, I'm not going to worry about it, but I guess I worry about other people. And, like if they don't open their eyes and start voting for the right people that are going to bring some type of change, because I'm with you. Like, I've always been, less jail, less, let's give everyone time and space. And, but now I'm seeing, I think, what I voted for, and I'm not happy.
Ooh,
and I'm actually scared.
That's an interesting revelation. Brenda, I'm going to say this, even though I would prefer not to, but there's a problem with the Democratic Party. And it's within their own party, and they're starting to come to terms with it. 32 of their elected officials are not seeking re-election. There's a reason. They have a pushback from the more conservative element in that party, which has been one that's always been of a mindset to compromise and to negotiate. That's left the discussion. We have an interesting demographic within the Democratic Party that is steering the ship, and I would say in creating an undercurrent. I understand why everybody voted for Joe Biden, because Donald Trump talked himself out of being president. Whether people like this or not, he did some things that were very good for this country. We are now experiencing the fallout of dependency upon foreign countries for goods in this country, whether it's chips to make cars, fuel. All of a sudden, it's become a problem that we're laying off on a foreign entity as to why our gas prices are going up. That's just simply a lie. I don't know how else to say it to you. One of the things that's going on right now, and this is the part that really gets me, I don't like my sense of decency offended, and that's what's going on. When you stand in front of me and tell me that Putin is responsible for high gas prices, that's a lie. That started to take place when you closed down the Keystone pipeline, the XL pipeline. And if you're telling me he's responsible for our inflation, that's a lie. But more importantly, what that implies is that we have allowed a foreign entity, hear me out on this one, adversarial in nature, to develop a foothold or to gain influence into our country, so harmful to the American public and possibly even the national security of this country. I'd like to know who is the architect of that and who continues to promote it. Hear what I just said to you, Brenda? That's something you should be concerned about. I am tired of listening to Jen Psaki stand before you and lie and say the Republicans are defunding the police. Is that your understanding? And let me just play some sound bites from Cori Bush and Cortez, among others. Oh, yeah, let me not forget Omar. This is the problem. Something happened in the Democratic Party. It is broken. We need a healthy Democratic Party. Period. End of discussion. That's not what we have. And to be honest with you, they're so far off the rails that what they're doing right now is putting the national security of this country at risk, in particular because of the way we've become dependent on foreign countries for oil, for example, and the borders. We need border control. I am not against allowing people to come into this country to benefit from those things you and I benefit from. And I'm hoping, Brenda, that you never take them for granted, because that's one thing Americans do. Until you travel this world like I have and you see how people live in South America, you want to cry sometimes, especially when you see the impact on the children, kind of like what we're witnessing in the Ukraine right now at the hands of Putin. I could go on like this for you for days. I am conservative in nature, but I am very socially open-minded. And I'm not liberal, I'm open-minded. I'm open to discussion about pro-choice, because I don't think any man should have anything to say about a woman regarding, bearing a child, especially in cases of rape, incest, ectopic gestation. There's more conversation to be had with this negotiation there. As far as people's lifestyle choices, I don't care if you sleep with a gorilla. It's not my business, and I don't want to hear about it. I don't know why it's pushed in my face every day, or your face. The gun control issue is what I call a moot point. There are at least 500 million guns in this country. There is no gun control. Let's try management. Oh, yeah, and by the way, as long as you got me rolling here, Brenda, I am watching this country arm a populace, a citizenship in the Ukraine with assault rifles, some of them ours, M4s, our military guns. But you shouldn't be allowed to protect yourself here. And by the way, I remind everyone of this. The Second Amendment was not designed to embrace guns. It was designed to embrace freedom. Firearms are that tool, unfortunately. They have become a necessary evil, and one that's unmanageable at this point, because our elected officials and our media refuse to take on the mantle of compromise and productive discussion. See what you did to me today, Brenda?
Yes.
I'm hoping that this is giving you some guidance, but this is what I want to say to you. This is the most resilient country in the history of mankind. There are incredible people from coast to coast, north to south. I visited a whole lot of them. I worked around a lot of them. Please relax. Take a deep breath. I'm hoping that there's some sanity that's going to enter this discussion. I am so disappointed in the performance of this administration, I can't articulate it in words. I was disappointed in the performance of Donald Trump, to be honest with you, because we're not here to degrade and demean each other. That's not the exercise. And all we do is fuel this polarization that you and I are experiencing. I hope that this has been productive in answering your question, but I don't want to overly alarm you, but you have reason to be concerned. So do most Americans. I hope they're listening to what I'm saying here. You get off your haunches and go vote in November to begin with. And by the way, you can call the White House. You can call your congressman. I don't know how much further the cuckoo has to leave the clock with this administration before they realize they're taking us down a very dark road. And I'm not anti-Democrat. I'm just telling you the truth. And I challenge anyone to get into an exchange with me. This thing at the borders, which suddenly we're not talking about any longer, is just troubling. We cannot allow people to indiscriminately access the country. Brenda, I have to cut at this point. We've got to go to a break. I hope that you call back in again. I really do, because your concerns are my concerns. And guys, we'll be right back. So let me tell you a little bit about Buzzsprout. Very interesting concept. Basically, it allows you to set up your own podcast. One of the most advantageous things about using Buzzsprout is it's user-friendly. So I encourage you highly, if your inclination is to create your own podcast, please look into Buzzsprout. And by the way, we use it. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. With whom do I have the pleasure?
This is Shay from Alabama.
Shay, how are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm pretty good. No, I was just recently in your state, actually, passing through on the way to Austin, Texas.
Oh, I love Austin.
I have to tell you, I love the southern United States. My mom's a southerner. I don't know if you're a real southerner or you're a transplant, Shay, but my mom was born and raised in Arkansas, ironically enough.
I am the real thing. I am from Augusta, Georgia.
Oh, really? No kidding,
Yes.
huh? Yeah. I have one of my in-laws is from Georgia. My brother was in the military in Fort Bragg, married my sister-in-law who was from Georgia. Any case,
Right.
so you're a native Georgian and you've transplanted to Alabama. And,
Yes, sir.
And the reason being?
Family.
Oh, very good. Okay. So I gather you have a question today, or you just called to say
Well,
hi? And
I do have a question.
Okay.
So recently, President Trump made the statement that he's still been in office, Putin would not have attacked the Ukraine. And I'm wondering your opinion on that. Like, do you think that that's a true statement? And what's your reasoning behind your response?
I'll tell you, interesting about President Trump, and I want to ask you this, and I'm just asking curiosity, and it will not flavor my response. Do you like the president? Trump, did you like him or not like him? Just curious.
Oh, yeah, I'm a fan.
You are a
I definitely
fan.
think he's a lot.
Yeah, you know what's
Even if you don't like him, I don't know how you could not like him better than what's in office right now.
I unfortunately, what's going on in this administration is making Donald Trump look like a superstar, just because of one simple thing. He stabilized this country in a lot of ways, but he did polarize it also. Let's be honest, Shay. Some of the comments and remarks that he made weren't necessary, and they polarized the country. You know, the responsibility of our political leaders is to have some demeanor. I'm a native New Yorker. He's a native New Yorker. He grew up in Queens. I went to college in Queens, ironically, you know, in the city limits. I do believe that Donald Trump reached out to these international adversaries we have, whether it's Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea, and he kind of put them on notice because he's kind of like I am in a lot of ways, and I don't want to liken myself too much to him because I have much better people skills. But I'm kind of a no-nonsense, bottom-line kind of guy. When you back me into a corner, I know where to take you. I think that was Donald Trump. I think they feared him, and there's something to be said about fear. And they respected him because they knew he wouldn't hesitate to go after you. And there's a value in that. Tragically, and you know, part of the problem with America is we're so emotionally sensitive. We have a hard time telling you the bottom line truth. I don't know if you know this, but I was a law enforcement agent. In addition to that, I grew up not super hard, but I grew up tough in New York City, fighting a lot and surviving, learning how to just survive on the subways, etc. There's a value to how you posture yourself. I personally do not believe we would be going through this if Donald Trump was the president, because I think he had established some type of exchange of ideas with Putin, probably telling him that if you cross a line, I will come after you. And there ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it with Donald Trump. You know, part of the issue with Donald Trump is people might call him crazy. You could also call him effective. This is a man that brought Kim Jong-un to the discussion table twice in his administration, which no administration prior was able to do. People can argue with it all they want. He was able to establish some form of balance of power that has slipped away here because people optically looking from the outside in, Shay, are looking about, we're in just disarray here. We have no control of our borders, no control of our major city, no control. Oh, by the way, no control of our economy. Putin's doing it. You hear what I'm saying to you? So my rationalization for saying Donald Trump probably would not have this going on in his administration is partially fear-driven. I do want to tell you something ironic. I don't know if you know this about me, but I own a private security group, and by reputation, we are the goods. I don't know how it happened. It has to do with my work ethic and my IQ I attach to this and aptitude. People of far greater wealth than I'm ever going to have hire me to protect them from their fear of being assaulted, hurt, kidnapped, or murdered. Hear what I'm saying to you? Fear is an interesting dynamic. Donald Trump resonated that. Everybody is afraid of this guy, including his own political party. Because if you didn't get in step with him, he wouldn't hesitate to branding you, which seemed to have worked sufficiently to get him elected. Now, Brenda, I want to talk truthfully about Donald Trump, you being a follower, a fan. You know, there are doctors that are good, and they lack what they call bedside manner. I think that's what we're looking at, number one. And number two, we didn't send him to finishing school. You know, I think if the president stopped dignifying the ignorance of some of the people in Hollywood that seem to think they know more about this country than Donald Trump does. Listen, Donald Trump's been in the gutter, okay? He doesn't hide it. He's a businessman. He pulls no punches. He's quite transparent about supporting both political parties when he was in the corporate sector. This guy hedged his bet, just like Wall Street does, by the way. And there's a value in him really knowing and understanding the bottom line. whether people like to accept this or not, there's an ugly truth about New Yorkers, and it doesn't mean it doesn't exist other places, but New Yorkers learn how to take care of business on a lot of different ways because they're subjected and stimulated by all types, right, wrong, indifferent, good, and evil. And Trump is a byproduct of that. I would say to you, if I were going to hedge my bet on someone that could help mend the fence, I would not look to Donald Trump in 2024. I'd probably look to someone like Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley. I'll tell you who else I like is this girl Tulsi Gabbard, who, by the way, spoke at the RNC. You know, I don't know what side of the fence she's straddling at this point politically, but I do think she is open-minded like I am and concerned about issues that directly correlate to you, for example, for women. I'm tired of them pandering to our women in this country. I don't know if you understand to the extent my comment goes, but I'll give you an example. When someone rapes a woman, you can get sentenced 3 to 5 years. That's the sentencing guideline. Are you kidding me? You touch a woman or a child in my world, you go for the rest of your life, at least. I'm not a proponent of the death penalty as a rule. There are some exceptions, but as a rule, I'm not a fan. You touch a woman, we catch you through DNA, inconclusive, and we know how to put the investigations together because of the science driving forensics. You go for the rest of your life, not 5 years. There's a lot to say on this topic. I know I did a little tangential issue with you, but to go back to the essence of your question, I don't think this would be going on with Trump there. You know, sometimes people do the right thing for the wrong reason, Shay. Maybe that's what Putin would be doing because Putin's gotten the green light here. Why should he hold back on invading the Ukraine? We can't hold our own border. I mean, this is absolutely, crazy. I don't know what to say about what's going on in the country that you should be concerned about. I'm not talking down Donald Trump, but I'm just saying to you, he did a lot of good things that were overshadowed by his demeanor. You just have to pull your horns in sometimes. Think about what you say before you say it. Understand what it translates to. And the same thing goes with your actions. So I hope that answered your question. I didn't mean to go off on a dissertation, but all of it, all the conversation, all the comments I made intersect. That's what's so interesting about our conversations today. You know, as far as Putin goes, relationship with Trump versus this administration is being perceived as being weak. And one of the reasons I say that is because their inability to tell the truth to you on a regular basis. And I'm not saying everybody in D.C., tells the truth, because that's just simply not true. Putin saw a weakness, and he took advantage of it, is what I think happened here, that I'm not sure would have taken care of Donald Trump. Now that I've talked so much, I want to give you an opportunity to comment or come back at me with another question.
I don't have any more questions, but I absolutely agree with you, especially on Trump's demeanor. I think he really overstepped his bounds in that way. And I'm thrilled that you gave me some more political people to look into because things have got to change. So I'm interested in looking into their background.
The interesting thing, Shay, is that I'm not sure that Donald Trump is that nexus. What we need is a little calm in the White House, a little less contention in the media. You know, part of the problem here, Shay, is, and I know you're an intelligent woman, I can tell by talking to you, our media outlets have chosen to become extensions of our political parties, right? They're creating your narrative and your optic. And you want me to show you how powerful they are? Look at what you're being beaten over the head with every day now on Fox, MSNBC, and CNN. It's the Ukraine, the Ukraine, the Ukraine, the Ukraine, the Ukraine. Tell me I'm wrong. The only thing they're letting you hear is what they want you to hear. They create your optic and your narrative. By the way, the borders have fallen to the wayside in conversation. Crime in the major cities fallen to the wayside. We haven't seen Fauci in 3 weeks, which is just astonishing because we couldn't get him off the damn TV, right? All of these issues, the vaccine mandates, wearing masks, vaccine cards, everything went to the side. That's how powerful your media is. You are witnessing it right now. And I don't know what the addressment for the media is because they're hiding behind the First Amendment of the Constitution, which is a critically important amendment. But at some point in time, we've got to figure out how we're going to get some balance out of the media to to the extent that, A, I'm not interested in their opinions. The media has changed. You know, these are not the days of Walter Cronkite where things are factually based. We're just making up, I almost said the bad word. It starts with an SH. We're just making things up here so that we can have viewership, which translates to sponsors, which translates to the salaries of these alleged journalists. And when I say alleged, I mean alleged. I've done so many interviews with the media your head would spin. They are so out of touch with what the reality attached to the truth is. It's scary. And unfortunately, the American public is spoon-fed by them, which is why you'll hear me say on this podcast, and I do a show in Jacksonville on Monday and Tuesday, 5 o'clock live. It's WBOB at 600 on AM, 101.1 FM. And I tell people, don't be spoon-fed by me, Shay. Become an investigator. I've been an investigator for over 48 years. Don't be spoon-fed by what you hear from Fox, MSNBC, or CNN. I think I got to go to a break. I'm going to come back to you for one final comment from you guys. Stick with me. We'll be right back. We're back, and Shay is on the line with me from Alabama. Shay, you there? I think we lost Shay. If you're hearing me, Shay, I want to thank you for joining us today. And interesting observation. We're gonna take on some emails right now, ladies and gentlemen. And I do want to mention one thing. It appears that China's in a lockdown over the COVID issue. Supposedly 51 million people are infected. In any case, we have an email from Brad, who's from Bend, Oregon. He's stating, Biden's national security advisor warns China will face consequences if it sends military aid to Russia. What consequences could they face? Is this like David poking Goliath? Do we really want to piss China off? Isn't that a bad idea? I want to say this to you. I don't think China really wants anything to do with Russia at this point and what's going on in the Ukraine, because optically, on a global sense, this has become a nightmare for Putin, to put it to you politely. I do want to say to you that they are aware of how globalized he has caused the planet to become against him. I'm not sure they want to take that on. As far as sanctions or consequences towards China, we have leverage. But I do want to say one thing to you you're going to find interesting. That leverage would translate to inconveniences with this country, because we've become so dependent on outside countries, foreign entities, to support our infrastructure and our lives on a daily basis. For example, go buy a battery, Brad, from China. Or buy an electric car, by the way. The batteries, lithium-ion batteries, China. Tools, China. Go to Home Depot or Lowe's, pick up some tools, look where they're made. The way to hit China is in their pocketbook, which is the way everybody feels it. Right now, we're concerned about the borders in this country. We're concerned about the crime in the city. We're more worried about inflation and the price of gasoline in particular, because when you want to get somebody's undivided attention, put your hand in their pocket. And that's exactly what you will get, their undivided attention. Are there consequences? Yes. We could stop consuming products from China. I think this thing with China has taken an interesting spin, because they're looking at the way the world has turned against Putin. I'm not sure they want the world to turn against them if they go near Taiwan, who, by the way, pretty much produces all the chips on the planet, which is why we're having a problem with automobiles today. Manufacturing. This is just incredible. I don't know what further to say on that thing. I don't know if this administration has the ability to cause anyone to take pause. I think that China is being self-motivated by their observation of what's going on in the Ukraine with Putin, that I don't think we have to influence them that much. I don't think China wants their fingerprints on this at all, if they were smart. The last thing they want to do is turn the rest of the planet against you, which is what could happen, which is what's happening to Putin. I don't know if people understand this about Putin, but his days are numbered. He's a marked man, to be honest. He did it to himself. It's self-inflicted. We had a gentleman on the phone here, actually in a Zoom call. His name is Taras Kuzio. Brilliant young man. Wrote 17 books, political science, the whole Ivy League deal. He's just, spot on. And he mentioned that in our Zoom call that Putin is overstepping his abilities. I can't argue, because I'm watching this demonstration of military might in the Ukraine. If this is the best they have to offer, Russia needs to go back to the drawing board. If I've been saying China, please excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Russia needs to go back to the drawing board. That's all there is to it. Interesting conversation with China. I wish we had a stronger base of operation, a better line of communication. I don't think we have to motivate China much to stay away from this situation. I don't know if they're going to arm and fund them. What's interesting is that Putin is reaching out to everyone right now to support him, including Syria, Kazakhstan. Pick a place. He's in trouble there. He's up to his backside in alligators is what it comes down to. So, there's other issues here, by the way. Biden has some personal business in China, we believe. There's no secret that his son has, I would say, orchestrated or been the architect of some rather interesting business deals. I don't know with China. I don't think China's going to swing in that direction. I hope that answered that question for you, Brad. I would encourage you to call in or send us another email and follow up, because I like the call-ins. It gives you an opportunity to respond to my comments rather than just have me ramble at you and you just be spoon-fed by me, which I caution you. Don't let anyone do that. We're going to take an email. Again, I believe this one is from David from the Yonkers, and he's asking me the following. We are now at the point where NATO-Russia clash is looking more like annihilation than negotiation, and that should terrify all of us. Biden can barely speak to the American people in a coherent manner. How can we as American people go toe-to-toe with a nuclear superpower like Russia and prevail? We're all nuclear superpowers. If you want to entertain yourself, Google our Trident nuclear submarines. It will alarm you, the weaponry, the munitions that are sitting on that thing. So everybody understands, and Putin knows this too, no one will win. The problem with Putin is he's at a point of desperation, which is when a man is most dangerous. One of the important elements in this discussion with Putin is that we try to encourage him to withdraw, allowing him to save some face of some type, and that's all part of a negotiation discussion. Maybe part of it is that the Ukraine will never become part of NATO, any number of things. I don't think he's going to be allowed to launch anyway, because before he does that, he has to understand there are other countries like China that are in the discussion that are not really, I'm going to say, in favor of launching nuclear weapons. They have a lot more to lose than Putin and Russia, which is why Putin's so dangerous, by the way. They're at a point in Russia, they got nowhere to go but up. This country is in trouble, and it's because of men like Putin and his command staff. I mean, it's an oppressive society. They're locking them up in tens of thousands right now, protesting against what he's doing in the Ukraine. And I want to just give you a little insight why. This is a generation of Russians that weren't around for the Cold War in the 1960s and the Cuban Missile Crisis. They don't even know what the hell that is, and they don't care. All they know is that they don't like violence, they don't like aggression, and that is unfortunately a big part of the discussion with Putin right now. I mean, he's just annihilating this country, the Ukraine. And I want to say this, the American government needs to be part of this solution, but to be candid with you, there's 27 NATO countries in Europe. They need to be on the tip of the spear with this thing, not just America. For whatever reason, we've got to lead the charge. There's enough of them there that they're capable in their own right of destroying the world. Macron, the French president, recently reminded Putin, we have nuclear weapons too. I am not really convinced that that's the direction this is going to go, but I will tell you this, if God forbid it does, this planet will be uninhabitable, and all you have to hope for is that you're with your children at that time. There's a lot of technology that we're not aware of. I want to say something to the public, and the thing I'm really entertained with today is how the media is so forthright in discussing our strategies, our planning, issues regarding getting aircraft to the Ukraine, how we're going to do it. I wish they would stop educating the adversary. It would be a novel idea. They've been doing this historically for quite some time now. Why can't you guys just put a lid on it? I know you need ratings and you want to entertain people, but it's coming at a cost. That's all I'm saying to you. How about you just tighten your lips a little bit and stop talking about the problems and the negotiations with Poland getting MiGs into a German air base so they can launch them. Why do you have to tell everybody everything we're doing? in this country. I know you do this under the First Amendment freedom, but at some point, decency, common sense, logic, reason, and just love of your country hopefully supersedes the love of your paycheck, folks, because at the rate you're going, you're pushing us in a direction where you're not going to be getting a paycheck. And if you do, it'll be somewhat of a moot point. There'll be no place to spend it. I don't know what else to say on this topic. I am not fearful of Putin. I just am not. I have 4 young children, by the way. I got plenty of skin in the game. I'm looking at the direction this country's going. Forget Putin. And I'm wondering, and I'm concerned about what their future is going to be, which is what everybody's concern should be. First and foremost, above your political loves and the Clintons and whomever it is you think you should butt up next to in your political agenda. Love your children more you love your agenda. Love your children more than you love your political affiliation or your favorite media outlet. Enough is enough. Take the filters off and just look at everything from a truthful basis. Look at your major cities, look at the condition of them, and identify the common denominator. It's like mass shootings. There is a common denominator to them. It's mental and emotional illness. There's a common denominator to the disarray in all your major cities. I hate to say this to you. It's not because I'm anti-Democrat, but it's the Democratic Party. They left the rails here, folks. They've got problems in this party. We need a healthy Democratic Party. I don't think we're ever going to see it again. They're killing each other as we're on this podcast speaking to you. In any event, I hope that answered your question. I appreciate it, Brad, and I encourage you to come back to us, and we're going to take a right back. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back, and I'm going to give you some closing thoughts. Not that I haven't given you enough already. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Quick closing thoughts. We don't have a whole lot of time because I spoke in depth to a lot of problems facing us today. We're at crossroads right now, and the decisions that we make around now are probably going to determine whether we're here in the future in many ways. The condition of the country is not good. We are just divided and polarized to an unprecedented level. People bear so much personal hate and animus towards Donald Trump that they would vote for the village idiot. No disrespect to the village idiot either, but they would vote for him over Donald Trump, and I understand it. He painted himself into a corner with his rhetoric, with his his comments and critiques, and his unkind assessments of people, all of which were unnecessary. If you're going to be critical, be constructive, is what I always suggest. I am gravely concerned about the direction the country's going. What we're witnessing in the Ukraine could be an indication of things to come. We're watching Putin now bomb installations within 10 miles of the Poland border. It's going to get interesting is all I'm going to say to you. I tell you this, guys, relax. Whatever's going to be is going to be. Go out and enjoy your day. Take nothing for granted and don't squander time. This is Lou. This has been Between the Lines. By the way, please find us on betweenthelines.tv. We have shows on Spotify and Apple, and you can see us on YouTube, and I encourage you to become part of this conversation. Okay, guys, thank you so much.